Okay, making this video because on Friday, the 16th of November, Niel Willcott posted this on his Instagram account, and yeah, it's sort of supposed to be an update of the CLF Code of Conduct, according to him. This has been done several weeks after I made a video where I was sort of talking about the fact that I've been going on about this CLF Code of Conduct for a long time, and I was wondering why it was that so many people were refusing to acknowledge it even exists, including, and in particular, Niel. And now I should also say that last week, sort of Saturday, Sunday time, I sent Niel's ex-wife Jo Hardy an email, because you might remember, if you watched the previous video, I'll put links to that, by the way, and you would have known that I sort of discussed at length that maybe she was using her sort of personal position, her leverage over him, to make him pretend the CLF Code of Conduct doesn't exist. And now, I didn't send her an email before I made that video about asking that specific question, because you know, back in 2015 I did send her 3 emails having a few words. It was in the wake of Niel's resignation from the PBIF. You know, talking about the fact that she was misrepresenting herself on her website, the Chan Hyung's rules that Doc-Fai Wong's been telling everyone, and, you know, the CLF Code of Conduct, what was going on, and also make it very clear that as far as I was concerned, she was complicit. She was clearly colluding, you know, she was complicit in what was happening to Niel, and she was colluding with Doc-Fai Wong and so on. So anyway, after the 3rd email, which was my last email, I did sort of specify that it was the last one, she sent me this beautifully constructed sentence. It was just one sentence, it was brilliant. What she said was, should you contact me with this unfounded nonsense again, Niel and I will contact the police and report you for harassment. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't take the police threat too seriously, because I know that you know, talking about stuff like that isn't really harassment. You know, I mean, I guess someone like her considers even being mildly questioned harassment, but the fact is it's not. It's genuine. It's, you know, genuine questioning that needs to be asked. But the thing was, she was clearly in denial about what was going on, so I kind of felt like, for those reasons, it was really pointless trying to email her and ask her if this was the thing that she was doing. And, you know, she was forcing Niel to keep quiet about the CLF Code of Conduct. But then after I made the video, I sort of thought, well, it is kind of polite to at least give her a chance. So I thought I should, and also I didn't know if she'd actually seen the video, and I've posted about it on Instagram and stuff, and it seemed only fair to give her at least some right of reply, and let her know that this is something that I was saying. So I did send her that email. I didn't expect a reply, haven't had a reply as of, well, about 2 o'clock in the morning. I tend to be up late. But this is what has happened since. So this happened 6 days. This was posted 6 days after I sent her that email. So it's sort of, see, like, in a way, it's sort of progress. But the thing is, this is a very simplified version of the CLF Code of Conduct. I'm not even sure you can call it that. At least he doesn't call it that. But the thing is that what that means is that it doesn't necessarily reflect Niel's views on the CLF Code of Conduct. We can't be sure of that. I mean, it might have come through Niel, but it was almost certainly run by Jo for approval, it seems very unlikely that at least she didn't see it and say, yes, that's fine, before he posted it. And I don't think that's very, I don't think we can trust that, to be honest, if it's been approved by someone from the PBIF. You know, for all I know, it's even approved by Doc-Fai Wong, because, you know, it's had time to get that far and get back again, and it might even have been written by Doc-Fai Wong, for all I know. I mean, it's simplistic enough to have been written by him. So I don't know. I mean, I do feel that Niel is perfectly capable of doing something annoying and ridiculous, like, you know, he's particularly, yeah, he's quite capable of doing this on his own. He doesn't need their help or their pressure, but I still, you know, I don't think we can assume, basically, that this is specifically what he wrote and he is specifically really genuinely approving of this. So anyway, but he might be. So, okay, there are a few things to say about this. Oh yeah, I should say that, right, he's only posted this on Instagram and on Twitter here. It's not actually on his website. It doesn't appear to be on his public Facebook pages, so it's not on his Lohan Martial Arts School page, his Lohan Yoga page, his I'm a Really Fabulous Grandmaster page. It might be on his personal Facebook page, I don't know. I don't see that. So I don't really know, but it doesn't appear that those are the only places that it appears to be. Now, he actually was blocking me on Instagram, and he unblocked me the day before he posted this. And he also, he did block me on Twitter a couple of years ago. I haven't logged into Twitter for just over a year for various reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with Niel. But I'm not going to log in to... he may have unblocked me there as well, but I'm not going to log in and check because I've got more important things to do than go back on Twitter. Well, not more important. I do love Twitter. There's sort of difficulties there. Anyway, so I'm not... so basically, when I have been... right, so the first thing is I'm not going to go and say anything about this on Twitter because I don't log in, or on Instagram, because the thing is, this is going to be quite a long video, and it kind of requires a lot of discussion. I don't really feel like that's an appropriate forum for have the kind of discussion that's required about this. And there's another thing, which is that, you know, I have been trolled anonymously by Niel's students, and I have reason to believe that he has actually, on occasions, fed at least one of them information to troll me better, maybe more than one. So, the thing is, you know, he's got, like, let's say, 26.5k followers. I don't, you know, he's probably got little followers, adoring followers, primed and ready to troll the shit out of me if I go and do that. And, you know, I don't mind taking a few hits for a good cause, but, you know, I'm not really into pointless martyrdom. That's not my thing. So I'm not doing it for that reason either. Yeah, I kind of, yeah, if people, I mean, I will post on Instagram that I'm doing this, so if people want to come and hear and talk to me about it on YouTube or on Instagram, that's fine. But I'm not going to Niel's account to do that. I don't, as far as I'm concerned, if he's unblocked me, he's only unblocked me so that I can get trolled. But because, you know, Niel did have a tendency to quite, you know, subjecting me to a lot of humiliation when I was in lessons, and I have no doubt he's got no scruples at all about setting me up for more humiliation using his big following on Instagram. So, you know, no way, fuck that. I ain't doing that. So, but anyway, now there are a few things to say about these rules. Now, they are so oversimplified. I'll just read them out, okay? Practice, number 1. Number 2, practice for good reasons. Number 3, be nice. Number 4, respect your teachers and other members. Number 5, positively contribute to your learning environment. Number 6, be clean. Number 7, eat and drink clean. Number 8, teach nice people. Number 9, keep humble. Number 10, you're welcome if you follow the rules. Okay, so in and of themselves they're not bad, but they are just so oversimplified that, I mean, basically they are kind of best for children, and they kind of represent nothing more than a good start. I mean, beginners, okay, be alright for beginners, but the problem is that if you're going to seriously get into learning Choily foot, you do need to think a bit more deeply about these things. So I kind of feel like that's a bit too simple. And the other thing, right, it's in Comic Sans. Like, where on earth? I didn't even think that font was available anymore. Like, nobody uses Comic Sans unless it's just like this is such a no-no in graphic design terms, and there's a reason for it. Okay, it was actually designed for speech bubbles originally. I mean, it went out with Windows 95, and then it kind of got massively overused in sort of the wrong circumstances, really. And yeah, and you know, and it's called Comic Sans because it's for comics, okay? And it's like childlike writing. It's deliberately sort of a little bit wobbly and a little bit off here and stuff like that. Because and I kind of feel like he must have just deliberately dug that out from somewhere to just really underline the point that this is just so simple and so easy. And I guess it's like, because I have been a people who said, oh, it's too hard to learn this Choily foot Code of Conduct to me, and I've been like, that's ridiculous. So, you know, here we are, this easy Choily foot Code of Conduct. Anyway, but I kind of feel like there's another thing about these. They do lose all distinctiveness because they've been reduced so much. You know, those rules, they could be in like any school. Okay, and you wouldn't look at those and think that they were specific to, you know, one style or one school or anything like that. Yeah, there's just nothing about them that distinguishes them. They're just so sort of motherhood and apple pie in a lot of ways. So there's that problem, and you know, if you like the average Chan family Choily foot student or Buxing Choily foot student who kind of learns the rules and stuff, they wouldn't look at that and think, oh, Choily foot Code of Conduct. They're just not going to think that when they look at that. So I've got no problem with the idea of updating the way that updating the rules to make them more, you know, relevant to today and everything like that. But there's updating things to make them more relevant, and there's just like taking away all the meaning and the distinctiveness of them, and it's just yeah, I don't think this really works from that point of view. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with them in and of themselves, but anyway, this is not, I mean, strictly speaking, he's not actually saying this is the Choily foot Code of Conduct. It's just like 10 rules for students. And here he says, in 2009, the keeper asked Niel Willcott to update the way the Choily foot system is propagated. Here is a fresh view of the old rules of conduct. CLF developed out of the Shaolin practice and Buddhist traditions. The original aim of the rules was to instill virtue on CLF practitioners. Now we are living in times of virtue. Rule 3 and 6 are the most important. Yeah, I just, you know, this updating thing, there are varying translations, and I have made a point of saying that in my first video about Chan Hyung's rules. I'll leave a link for that in the thing at the bottom as well. But, and there are reasons why, and they're not all quite the same, and there are good reasons for it. But there's updating things and it's just changing things so much, you just can't really recognise them So, oh no, I didn't really want to do that. I want that back. Okay, so, right. Now, there's a few things to say about what's here, okay? In 2009, the keeper asked Niel Willcott to update the way the Chorleyfoot system is propagated. Here is a fresh view of the old rules of conduct. Now, I first went to Chorleyfoot lessons with Niel Willcott in January 2012. I didn't get these rules. I got these rules that Doc-Fai Wong has been telling everybody are Chan Hyung's rules. I got some sort of club rules that, and I remember, you know, you should be well groomed and no starting any fights outside the school, no winding people up so they start fighting you, things like that all seem quite reasonable. And, you know, I remember that, but, you know, the no starting fights thing, that's not in here. No winding people up so that they start fighting you, that's not in here. So this is different. These are not the same thing. So, like, 3 years later, he hadn't come up with this. And then, okay, so maybe, you know, while he was in the PBIF, it would have been a little bit awkward for him to, you know, talk about the Chorleyfoot Code of Conduct, but, you know, he resigned from the PBIF in December 2014. Now, the thing is, I have trouble with my stuff, I have to lie down a little bit. The thing is that he didn't say anything about the Chorleyfoot Code of Conduct then, and I first brought it up with him in the beginning of January 2015, because that's when I discovered it. Pretty much as soon as I discovered them, first thing I said was, "What's this?" And he didn't say anything about it then. And then on the 25th of February in 2015, he changed the school name to Lohan, apparently in honour of the keeper, because this was supposedly what the keeper wanted. But why did he not say anything about this Chorleyfoot Code of Conduct then? I kept saying stuff about it. He wasn't saying anything about it. We're now in 2018, and it's near the end of 2018. It's been 9 years. It's taken him 9 years to come up with this. That's ridiculous, right? How on earth could that be credible? There's just no way. Then there is, now we are living in times of virtue. What, is this like some kind of tacit admission that they weren't virtuous before, that Niel wasn't virtuous before, that his students weren't virtuous before? Is that why he's saying that? Is it because he's now suddenly, you know, he's posted these, suddenly magically everyone is virtuous? Don't think so. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a whole world of shit going on out there. Things are really, really terrible. I mean, in this country, in the UK, where Niel also lives, you know, we've got people stockpiling food because they're worried about what's going to happen in April next year when we supposedly leave the EU. It's just like, things are really, really bad, and our government is certainly not virtuous, honestly. I don't quite get that. That's a kind of ridiculous statement, that one. And right, the other thing is, right, this Chorleyfoot Code of Conduct has been around for quite a while now, and it's been on other websites. It's been on Chan family websites. I think I first found it on a Buxing family Buxing Chorleyfoot website, and were they not making it times of virtue with their version? Is it somehow his version so much more fabulous that, you know, everyone's going to be virtuous now when they just couldn't be virtuous before because they had the wrong sort of version of the rules or something? That's ridiculous. Anyway, and rule 3 and 6 are the most important. Well, I have no idea why. Be nice, okay, it's fine for that to be nice. There's just no explanation for it. 6, be clean. Now that is not on any of the other translations that I have seen. I've got no objection to that as an individual rule, but it's not in the Chorleyfoot Code of Conduct. So I don't really see why that's been added. And one of the things I sort of stressed in my discussion about my original discussion about Chan Hyung's rules is that there's actually not that much that's about the physical aspect of practice. It's mostly about, you know, how you behave and preferably what you don't do and stuff. And, you know, literally all there was practice and not eat and drink clean. It was a restrict your, you know, don't eat and meat and drink alcohol excessively. That's all there was. So I don't particularly see why we need this all of a sudden. But anyway, so there you go. I don't really see why any rules should be that much more important, really, certainly in that set of rules. Now, there's another thing, right? It's sort of it's been reduced so much that it kind of loses all sense of a kind of cohesive style of martial art, basically. A group, a family. You know, in pretty much every other translation, you know, Choi Foot is mentioned. It's not mentioned once in this set of rules. I think it's actually mentioned in the Chan Hyung's rules, but it's not mentioned in this set of rules. Family, brothers, sisters, siblings, they're all mentioned in the other sets of rules. And I kind of think that, you know, it's taking a lot of that away. It's taking all of that away, really. And it's like when you particularly like rule number 5. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that rule. Problem is, I mean, it's like, okay, I am, you know, so I'm an anarchist, as you probably know if you've been following me much, and so I'm no fan of authority, but, you know, when I see that there's a Chorley Foot practitioner, a Chan family Chorley Foot practitioner in the judiciary, or there's a police officer who is also a boxing Chorley Foot teacher, I'm trusting that they are decent people and that they are using their position for good, essentially, that they don't abuse their power and stuff like that, because they have this sort of philosophy sort of as part of their martial arts practice. And, you know, when you take all this stuff about, all the stuff about Chorley Foot as a kind of, that makes Chorley Foot and a cohesive group and a family, and if you particularly take away that rule about, you know, number 5, about the Tiger Claw, you know, you're not allowed to fight each other, we're all brothers and sisters, we do not fight each other. You know, we're all brothers and sisters in Chorley Foot, we do not fight each other, we're not allowed to fight each other. If you take that away, well, for me, that trust is gone. You know, if I was doing Wing Chun, if I was into Wing Chun, there's no sort of particular code of conduct as far as I'm aware, like we have in Chorley Foot. And, you know, and then I came across a police officer who did Wing Chun, I wouldn't be thinking, oh, he's going to be alright. Absolutely not. It's just not. So I kind of assumed that he was studying Wing Chun so he could beat up protesters more effectively, frankly. You know, it's just like, I'm not... So, you know, you take all that away, that sort of trust between Chorley Foot practitioners, that's kind of eroded quite a lot, and for me it's gone. So I do feel like that's a big problem with this set of rules here. Another problem, he has only posted these rules, he hasn't posted other versions of the Chorley Foot Code of Conduct, so there's no, you know, there's plenty of others around you can do. There's this one that's in the school in Georgia, there's this one from Chorley Foot Sydney where Chen Yong Fa is based. So, you know, he could post those as well, but he hasn't, so nobody's able to compare. So people who are commenting on this, they're not necessarily going to know where he's got this from or how much he's changed it, really. They're not going to be able to compare. I don't think that's fair or right. Anyway, So that's that one. Now, okay, I'm not going to say that you can't in any way change the code of conduct, you know. Right, I mean, there is like a bit of an issue with sort of slight variances with the different translations. So, okay, so if let's close this one. So this one, rules number 9 and 10. This bit here, if you misuse your knowledge to gain money, then you are within Choilyfoot family, a betrayer of our founder's wishes and bringing down the group's name. 10. If you cannot abide by these rules, then you may leave, or if you break them and dispute the rules, the master may expel you from the school. Now, in this one, from Chen Yongfa's group, never misuse your skills on others or put yourself above them, as it only causes trouble. Practice Kung Fu to build a strong foundation for your body. Practice every day, do not forsake its way. Now this bit is repeating something from earlier, and there's nothing about money in here. All of the above rules are the rules that the founder wishes us to follow, so to disobey these is to go against his wishes. If you cannot abide by these rules, you may leave, or if you break them, then it is up to your Sifu's discretion to assess your status within the school. Now, I think a bit of what's going on here is it seems like what they could have done was, when using Kung Fu you have learnt, you are to think how to remain humble, not be proud of your status, not placing yourself in front of others, or using your knowledge to gain money. And then this bit kind of seems a bit like, if you look at the other one, that's really part of Rule 10. All of the above rules, the rules that the founder wishes us to follow. So I think it makes more sense to put this bit with Rule 10. If you do not follow these rules, etc., you are within the Choilyfoot family, a betrayer of our founder wishes and bringing down the group's name. If you cannot abide by these rules, then you may leave, or if you break them and dispute the rules, the master may expel you from the school. Now, there are reasons for this, okay. This is a picture of the original script. It's not very clear here. I tried printing it out, it doesn't really work. But the point is that translating Chinese to English is really, really difficult, because the way that our language works is very, very different from Chinese. The structure of sentences is very different. The way they express concepts is very different. So it's so things can end up being quite different. So I'm just going to make it a bit easier and look at the couplet, the Choifoot couplet, which is a bit shorter. So, whenever the dragon and tiger encounter each other, be careful, as there is sure to be conflict. The student must be vigilant and must revive and propagate the teachings of Shaolin in order that the legacy from Shaolin will survive for future generations. Now, on here, so that was from the Pennant Hills one, which is one of the Chen Yongfa's affiliated schools. So then here, this is actually from the school which has this set of rules, which is Choilyfoot Sydney. And this one says, the dragon and the tiger met in heaven to revive our Shaolin ways. Teach your followers righteousness, let each generation uphold and enliven. Now that's quite different. It's sort of putting very different spin on things. And I think there's this one, which Doc-Fai Wong has on his website. The dragon and the tiger met as the wind and the cloud. My disciple, you must take good care of your future to revive the arts of Shaolin. Don't let the future generations forget about this teaching. So I think that is actually pretty, as I remember, if I look at Illawarra. So that's the same as the Illawarra one, actually, and that is also one of Chen Yongfa's kind of lot of schools in Australia. So it's pretty much almost exactly the same. Maybe Doc-Fai Wong copied and pasted it. I don't know. Anyway, the point is they do vary a bit, and there's reasons why they vary. You know, just like. Yeah, I mean, it probably does say they meet as the wind and the cloud, but what does that actually mean when they, in China, you know, and I think that this, one where it's they met in heaven to revive our shallow ways. That sort of seems more likely that it's what they meant. But you know, you've got this other one where it's talking about when they meet, be careful as there is sure to be conflict. So it's just like they do sort of very slightly vary, and you know, I mean, the rest is sort of pretty much the same, but but they're from the same translation. But it's actually probably quite understandable or reasonable that, you know, all those translations exist, and they could all easily have all come from the same script because of the way that Chinese language works. So so I kind of feel like, although there is some level of difference, it's quite understandable that, you know, some rules will get a bit muddled up. So this one, right, so we've got here, practice Choy Foot every day, or split up in different places. So yeah, this one is number 1, practice every day, do not forsake its way without reason. Number 2, you should practice not only to improve your skill and body, but also to develop a good and patient heart. Number 3, never use your skills to commit injustice or injury to others. Now, that's 2 and 3 are 2 separate ones there, but if you look at other ones, so there's this one, the slightly more wordy one. It's kind of my favourite, but it is a bit wordy. With the high level of skill obtained in Kung Fu martial art, a kind, gentle, good and patient heart must also be developed. This is similar to the Buddhist teachings. Also, one must never use his or her skills to commit injustice or injury to the others, but only for the purpose of defending oneself. By committing injustice and injury to others, one goes against the rules and regulations of society and the government. I think they just added that. I've not seen that anywhere else, and I personally, obviously, I'm not so keen on that. I mean, it's just a statement really that I don't think is really necessary. But anyway, so 2 here is like 2 and 3 together in one of the other ones, and then hang on, if you close, yeah, I reopen the Illawarra text. So here, actually, those ones are together. So you should practice not only to improve your skill and body, but to develop a good and patient heart. Never use your skills to commit injustice or injury to others. So they're from the same sort of lineage, so they're both Chen Yun Fa, but these 2 rules are separate in this one, and they're together in another one. So this is why, and I think that, you know, it's quite hard to work out where they don't have punctuation in Chinese, particularly. I mean, they use it now, but historically they haven't had it. So it can be, and I suspect they weren't too careful about, you know, keeping to obvious rows or something. It's probably a bit difficult to know where one sentence ends and next sentence begins and stuff like that. So it's quite understandable that that's going to happen, but I'm afraid it doesn't lead to that. That's not where it goes. Okay, that's just way out. Yeah, dear me. So I would have to, I will say, right, I have, because there are so many slightly varying translations, I have got my own personal one here that I keep on my living room wall, which I have, I've actually slightly expanded, to be honest with you. I've changed the wording a bit because, as I've mentioned, some of them are a bit wordy, sound a bit old-fashioned and stuff like that, and it's still, you know, fairly serious sounding. It's not like that, that's for sure. But I kind of felt the need to rearrange rules slightly so that they fitted together, they made more sense in the you know, separate rules and stuff. And so this is, and I've also slightly changed the couplet because I mean, I've tried to do my own translation. It hasn't really worked. I've not done very well at learning Chinese at all. I've got several books. I've got like a Cantonese grammar and Mandarin dictionary and, you know, other books, but I've not worked it out at all. But anyway, so this is my version of the couplet anyway. The tiger and the dragon meet in the air to bring back our Shaolin ways. The student must take care to uphold and regenerate these teachings to preserve the legacy for future generations. Now, I have obviously I have mostly based it on, not that one, this one that you get from Chen Yongfa's website, but and I can see why, and they've obviously done it so that it's all kind of poetic and couplety, whereas I've done it in a more prose-like way, and but I think that's a reasonable translation. It's just that I kind of felt like I wanted to add the word regenerate, and I wanted to be clear about preserving legacy, because that is what it for future generations. Because I mean, you know, there's like, it is important to keep, you know, there's the basics the same and stuff like that, but you can't preserve things exactly as they were. You know, Chorleyfoot is not, no martial art is a museum piece. So, but then, you know, I think that so sort of regenerating seemed like a good way of describing that. But you know, there's regenerating, and then there's that's not. I mean, it's not like, you know, like Doctor Who regenerates, but he is still the Doctor, or she, as she is now. But that's not recognised in the CLF Code of Conduct. And I have been sort of very concerned. Oh, it's a sort of interesting point, by the way, that Doc-Fai Wong has that. He learned at Foot SANS schools, all the teachers that he claims are his teachers are all Foot SANS teachers. But they don't have this couplet, as far as I can tell. I have looked through the Laobun, the website for the school that was founded by Laobun. Haven't found this anywhere on there. And the reason is that, you know, Choi Foot was not Chung Hung Sing's teacher. That's the reason. So Chung Hung Sing was not the one who was entrusted with this legacy. That was Chen Hyung. So that's why. But I do find it quite. This is part of Doc-Fai Wong's thing of trying to pretend that, you know, he's like a inheritor of Chen Hung's legacy when he's really, really not. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I have sort of changed mine slightly. So I've got number 1, the practitioners of Chorleyfoot train and practice to develop a strong and healthy foundation for their bodies. This helps develop strong and healthy hearts, minds and spirits. Therefore, the practitioners should keep practicing and never forsake the spirit of what they have learned without good reason. Now, I mean, the reason I sort of talk about minds and spirits and stuff is that I do feel like, you know, we need to be very clear that martial arts are not just a physical practice, they're a mental practice as well. They do change you mentally. I've changed a lot since I started learning martial arts. And it changes the way that you behave in your daily life. So you have to be very, very clear about what that's doing to you and how that changes you and how that changes your behaviour towards other people. And you really have to be careful about that. Number 2, with the high level of skill obtained in martial art, you must take care to develop a good, kind and patient heart, as did Chen Hyung before he created our style. One must never use his or her skill to commit injustice or injury to others, whether physical or mental, and only for the purposes of defending oneself or others. Now, there's actually not defending oneself or others. There's never use your skills to commit injustice or injury to others, but this one doesn't actually say, this code of conduct here doesn't actually say anything about defending others. This one does say, right, one must never use his or her skills to commit or injustice or injury to others, but only for the purpose of defending oneself. Now, I kind of feel like, you know, you should be prepared to defend others as well. I sort of feel like that's, you know, if people are unable to defend themselves, you should be prepared to help them. So I'm just sort of adding that in. But, you know, got to say, this is for my personal practice. So, and I do feel that's very much in keeping with the spirit of what we're learning. So, and also mentals, you know, no mental injury, you know, the violence isn't just a physical thing. You do have Like, I've had all sorts of nasty stuff done to me, and by Niel and his students, and you know, they wouldn't even, I mean, they probably wouldn't even dare try to beat me up because they just couldn't. But you know, there's it was very unlikely. That's a bit of a bold statement I made there, but you know, it's like they haven't tried. You know, I don't think they'd find it very easy. So, but that doesn't stop you doing other stuff, and it doesn't stop you torturing people in other ways. And I think we need to be very clear that that's wrong too. And we shouldn't abuse our position that we have by learning Choly Foot or anything that gives us power in order to do that. Okay. 3. Respect all previous and older Choly Foot practitioners, while always bearing in mind that these rules apply to all in Choly Foot, whatever their age or rank. Older and high-ranking practitioners must always remember they have a greater duty to be mindful of these rules, as they are in a position of greater power and are setting an example. Now, obviously, the thing about me emphasising the fact that they apply to all teachers as well, you know, the rules apply to teachers as well, and it doesn't matter how high the rank is. Obviously, that's my emphasis, because I think that Chan Hyung probably, when he wrote this, he probably just assumed that teachers would be all know that this was the case, that they should follow the rules, and they were setting examples, and they were guides, and they had to be decent, and that they were as much subject to the rules as any student. I'm sure he assumed that everybody would know that, but obviously that's not been the case. It's clearly not been the case in recent times. It may have always been the case, but it's definitely not the case now, and I think we need to really emphasise that. Number 4, all fellow classmates are siblings in Choly Foot and belong to the same generation. No individual student should consider themselves above any other student in Choly Foot, whatever their rank. Act towards each other in a kind, gentle, faithful and reliable way, respecting each other through trust, friendship and honesty. Do not bully the weaker sibling in any way. Now, I mean, again, I've added a little bit, because my personal experience is, I mean, I have, like, when I was in lessons, you know, I'd have this guy who was like an orange fringe, thinking he could lord it all over me just because I was he was an orange fringe and I was a white fringe. You know, it's just ridiculous. People do really need to remember that the fact that they've learned something a bit cool doesn't necessarily make them better than everyone else or give it any kind of right to look down on other people. So that's really all I've added there. Then number 5, siblings in Choly Foot may not fight each other. In times of trouble, we use the action of the tiger claw to remind us who we are, one family in Choly Foot who train and practice in the spirit in which Choly Foot was created. Now, you can sort of argue a little bit about what that means. There's this brothers in Choly Foot are not allowed to fight with each other. To distinguish a Choly Foot practitioner, the action of the tiger claw is used. Is that one? What's the Illawarra one like? You are not to fight among your brothers and sisters of Choly Foot, and to prevent this, when in times of trouble, we use the tiger claw as an action as a sign that we are Choly Foot practitioners. And then this one from this school. You are not to fight among your brothers of Choly Foot, and to prevent this, when in times of trouble, we use the tiger claw as an action as a sign that we are Choly Foot practitioners. So that's just the same, really. Now, like I said, translating from Chinese is a bit awkward, and I have had someone say it was mainly because we back then we had to have hand signals and stuff so that we could know who we were, basically, and we didn't accidentally fight our friends, basically. So back then, you know, you didn't have many pictures of people around. These days, everybody's pictures are pretty much everywhere. So it's not that recognising each other is much of a problem anymore. But I do feel that we are in times of trouble, basically. The world's going to shit right now. I mean, we could pull it back, but at the moment it's not looking great. So I do kind of feel like we really need to keep with that. You know, and I think we need to recognise that it's not just about like knowing who each other is and stuff like that. And we do, yeah, we want to, yeah, we want to be keeping together, and clearly, you know, we have had this problem of the code of conduct being buried, not really properly being out there, and so from that point of view, I do feel that that is still very important, really. Anyway, number 6, Chorleyfoot practitioners should not eat meat or drink alcohol excessively. Alcohol disorientates the mind and meat slows the body, inhibiting training and practice both physically and spiritually. So again, it's just like adding a few more words to just be a bit clearer, really. I mean, this one here, therefore the two taken excessively can damage your body and spirit. And I just, you know, I feel like sometimes the wording can be a little less old-fashioned, basically. Number 7, Chorleyfoot students must be careful about teaching outside the school. If you consider that your knowledge will be used wisely and without malice, you may pass on your knowledge. So this one, when practising Chorleyfoot, do not show others your skill without consideration, as it may cause trouble to yourself and others. I just feel like this bit, do not show others your skill without consideration, it's just not the way people talk at the moment. You know, people will kind of think, well, what does that, not be quite sure what that means, so I kind of felt like it needed a slightly different wording so that people are more likely to understand what it means, or certainly I want to be able to understand. I mean, I understand that anyway, but you know, it just seemed better to word it another way. Number 8, never misuse your skills on others, believing you are better than they. Do not fight or bully others in any way to show you are better. So that's basically the same. And then, although this is a bit of a, I think it's just kind of been missed out in this one actually, that particular rule. But it's in all the others. I mean, this is the Illawarra one. Never misuse your skills. Yeah. Or, yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth doing a bit more, a rule on its own, to be honest with you. Anyway, so number 9, when using your skills, including the greater mental skills you will have in everyday life, you must always check yourself, as it is easy to become too proud and forget you are still a person like anyone else. You know, some people do seem to kind of think they're a goddess or something, well, just because I've learned a few nice, cool forms. Or, you know, a god. Yeah, there are people who do think all sorts. It's very hard, actually, to keep yourself grounded. I feel like it's a constant job of work to remember that I am still a human being, and you know, I'm not some superhero. It's quite difficult when you get quite good at forms and stuff. So yeah, it is really important. That's kind of why I added that little bit there, to be honest with you. And have unreasonable expectations of others, which can be damaging for them and for you. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there is this kind of mythology of the devoted student in martial art who is prepared to put up with all sorts of abuse and horrible stuff. So I feel that Niel in particular has really played on this where I'm concerned. You know, there's just no way I would have been convinced of all sorts of things if it wasn't for that mythology, if it wasn't for that belief. So that's kind of why I feel like that's really important. And then never use your skills to gain money, status or adoration or anything else which encourages vanity. So yeah, I just felt a need to expand on that a little bit, really, because yeah, this is amazing how many Chorleyfoot teachers there are out there who seem to think everyone should adore them just automatically because, you know, they're really cool and lovely and stuff. And it does really, it's very damaging actually all round. You know, leads to, for example, me being blocked because I'm not suitably admiring of someone doing the splits, you know, just for example. And then 10, if you continually and willfully deny, dispute or break the rules. Now I did just add, now this one is if you cannot abide by the rules or if you break them, then it's up to your CFU's discretion to assess your status within the school. If I close this one, I get back to this. If you cannot abide by these rules, then you may leave, or if you break them and dispute the rules, the master may expel you from the school. Now the thing is that, I mean, I felt the need to add continually and willfully deny the rules, just because this is what's happening, it's what's been happening, and obviously I think it's reasonable to keep in, you're not supposed to really dispute or break these rules. Right, so if you continually, willfully deny, dispute or break these rules, you are in within Choilyfoot family a betrayer of our founder's wishes and bringing down the group's name. And I kind of felt like that was a reasonable thing to have. I'm certainly leaving that in there. And then it is within the discretion of the mom or the master to expel you from the school. Now, obviously, this here says master. Most of them say Sifu. I don't particularly have trouble with the title of Sifu, but it is a specifically masculine title. I kind of feel like we need to update that issue, really. So that's why I've said the mom or the master, because obviously mom or madam is going to be the female of master. So that's kind of what I've done with it. This is just my personal copy that I keep on my living room wall. I've mostly just sort of added to it, to be honest with you, because of my personal experiences of the things that people might do. You know, the abuses that people might, you know, mete out to others and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've done there. Now, I'm not... I mean, I do think it's fair enough. So obviously I don't have a problem with the idea of a few tweaks here and there, you know, maybe better wording and adding a few more caveats and stuff like that. I do, or, you know, a few more examples of things that you really shouldn't be doing. But really, there's doing that, and then there's this, which is reducing it to something that isn't really recognisable that easily as the Choilyfoot Code of Conduct. And no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go and do that on Instagram. I don't care. I'm sure that Niel's only unblocked me so I can get trolled to shit. Hey, you can fuck off. I'm not doing that. Okay.